verse 13 last week, Krishna talked about the cause of samsara, the cause of human suffering. We made a few points, what causes people to suffer. One of them was seeking security from insecure things. We also said one is looking for permanence from impermanent objects. Fulfillment being sought from things which do not last. In other words, finite objects cannot bring fulfillment because the state which I have gained them, from that moment on, the state deteriorates. And what do we all want? We want something that we gain to remain as it is in its perfectly healthy condition. But we find that is very hard, not only because the object's condition changes, but also our own moods and our own points of views change along with the object. Therefore, we can never quite grasp a moment of stability in our relationship with the object. We also said the cause being seeking happiness from sorrowful objects. Sorrowful objects means objects which are bound to change their state and negate our initial joy. For example, we meet someone and they're very pleasant, and then we have a particular relationship with them for a while, like a boss. Obviously, an employee and a boss will have a good relations in the beginning, but as things get a little bit busy and you have to attend to the duties, then the relationship can change over time, and this leads to our expectations never being fulfilled completely. We notice from our own experience that whenever we want something, it is not exactly how we want it. Now, of course, it depends on where you are looking at it from, but we're talking a general samsari. So the expectation is, for example, I want today to be a good day, a hot, warm day, so we can go out and have a nice time. However, today, as I wake up, we discover it's cold and gloomy and rainy, so that if the person is not careful, is going to affect their state of mind. So constantly one is being at the whims of the environment, and for that reason the expectations are not ever quite 100% fulfilled. So the cause of suffering thus is misplaced trust or misplaced security in objects which by their nature are not secure. So I put my security in things which are not secure. And then no wonder a person is looking for security their entire life. This is the condition of human beings. So if there's one general state that sums up all seeking, and that is I want security. I may not know what kind of security I'm seeking for, but it's security nevertheless. And the reason that we don't gain this is because the security is being misplaced. And also, last week, by our apprehension of the verse 13, should answer the common question, what about wars? What about conflict? Remember, conflict is nothing but a macrocosmic war. A war is nothing but a microcosmic example. So you and I can start conflicting with each other for whatever reason, and then what's going to happen? We're going to attract more. So sooner or later that's going to grow. So, and then we call that war, like between two nations. So we said two reasons why. And the first one was samanya karanam, if you remember, the general cause. Samanya karanam, for example, the dictionary, the words, they're just neutral. Like you put 10 words here, or put 100 words here on the board. They're all called samanya karanam, meaning they're general cause. That means those words are neither positive nor negative. They're not hurting nor are they uplifting. It depends how I use them. So how I use them, we said that's called vishesha karanam. That means the specific cause imposed by the person's own decisions. So therefore, I can use these words that are offered to me whatever words they are, the English language, and I can either cause conflict with another nation, or I can use those same words and establish peace negotiations with another country. So the first reason is, it depends how I use what is provided to me. What is provided to me is samanya karanam. How I use that which is provided, that's called vishesha karanam. The bricks of the house, samanya karanam. How I design these bricks, whether it's a house of the circular nature or a square, that is called vishesha karanam. So therefore, we establish that we cannot blame Ishvara for anything that happens in the world. Why? Because Ishvara is samanya karanam. Therefore, it is just a general cause. How I use it, that is vishesha karanam. That's up to me. And the second reason for why wars happen, the ultimate reason, is because owing to misapprehension or not having any knowledge, no knowledge of paraprakriti. What is paraprakriti? Fullness. If I know myself as full, then I'm not going to seek fullness where? In apara prakriti. Therefore, if I'm not told about apara prakriti, that is the material, emotions, feelings, then due to my nature of not knowing the fullness of who I am, then I will seek fullness by trying to conquer another nation. Why? Because as long as another nation exists, I want to destroy it. Why? Because there's a separation. And if I destroy it, there is no more separation, is there? So in other words, I am only seeking for not having two. See that problem? So the two-ness in my experience causes constant conflict and trying to negate, trying to destroy a competitor, trying to destroy a nation, trying to be better. Why? Because I see myself other than them. In other words, owning to my knowledge of apara prakriti and no knowledge of para prakriti. So therefore, if we all were to ascertain para prakriti, the fullness, the consciousness principle, there will be no wars. Why? Because you will be totally happy with the way that you are. But because I don't know, I look for parts to fill me up, because I always feel empty. So we then established with what the problem is of conflict, of the wars and the, not only wars, anything that is of a misconduct, anything adharmic, anything that is himsa in this world, in any country, at any place, at any time, is owning to these two reasons. We said that once we know the problem, then we never again waste our time seeking in the wrong place. For example, if I have a pen here, then I'm seeking everywhere in all of the wrong places. I'll seek the entire world, every single book I'll read, every single person I'll speak to, but the only place where that which I'm seeking is right here, right now. So once I find it, what happens? The search instantly gets called off. Therefore, I no longer have a need to bug you. Because if my pen is here, what's going to happen? I'm going to be agitated. I'm going to annoy you. Where's the pen? Where's the pen? Where's the pen? So in other words, I also put trouble onto you. I also agitate other people. So this is the benefit of knowing oneself. They no longer are a burden to other people. So we have established that apara prakriti cannot bring security. The only principle that can indeed bring security is para prakriti. And the solution, which is called samsara nivritti karanam, means the cause of cessation of suffering. In other words, what is it that causes samsara to cease? And this will be given in verse 14 to 19. And Ishvara also calls this by three specific names. He calls this by many more names. The first one, he says, Ishvara praptihi, to discover Ishvara. In other words, I get to achieve Ishvara. I get to arrive at Ishvara. Why did I put the quotes arrive at? Because Ishvara is always present. So therefore, but it seems like I am arriving at the truth. Why? We often think that we're traveling. We often think that we are moving in time and therefore I am coming closer to. But that is incorrect thinking. Why? Because there is no time. So the way to explain this is we usually get time a sense of time when we're moving forward. Like when we're learning something, we go, wow, I am moving towards my goal. Suppose you want to learn a new skill. Is your experience not true that it's like every day I feel like I'm moving closer to my goal? Is that our experience? But that's actually incorrect. The only thing that's happening is in reference to where you want to be, you are removing ignorance every single moment, and in reference to the removal of ignorance, it feels like I am moving in time, coming closer, arriving to that which I wish to experience or to enjoy. So therefore, in reference to removing my ignorance of Ishvara Swarupam, it feels like I am arriving at Ishvara, but I'm actually not arriving. I'm only removing ignorance that is preventing me from the knowledge of what is already the case right now. So first one, Ishvara Praptihi. The second is Ishvara Sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrendering to God, to Ishvara. When I say God, I mean Ishvara. And the third one is Ishvara Bhakti. Now, besides the obvious word of devotion, what else does the word Bhakti mean? The answer is acknowledgement of. Whatever you are devoted to, is it not true that you're acknowledging that? If you have a skill that you enjoy and you're devoted to improving and being good at that skill, is it not true that you keep acknowledging that skill like it's number one in my life? What else does bhakti mean? Attachment to. Is it not true that whatever we're devoted to, we are extremely attached to? In other words, in this case, I am attached to Ishvara. That's why it's Ishvara Bhakti. Fondness of. Is it not true that whatever you're devoted, you're very fond of? You admire it. You have fondful feelings for. And faith in. Therefore, Bhakti also means faith in that which is not the case right now, but only to my trust. By persistence, if I stay there long enough, I will get to then enjoy for myself in a future point in time. So, what does the word faith mean? Owning to my persistence, I am not experiencing what I wish to experience, but by my persistence, I will come to experience that which is not present right now. That means I don't have it now, but I trust that I will have it if indeed I persist doing and performing whatever I am recommended to do by the Shastra in this case. So for example, if a person does not fully appreciate themselves fully as they are right now, then why is the person still coming back to class? Because of faith. I may not have it now, but I trust, I don't know what is it that I trust, that in time, by sticking around, persisting, I will get to appreciate and enjoy that which is being promised. Now, the question will be, can you talk more about bhakti? Daivi hyesha gunamai mamma maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. All right, so this maya is difficult to cross. Think of a fisherman who throws a net into the ocean from his boat. And the net is going to capture many fish. The fisherman ends up pulling the net full of fish onto his boat or her boat. What's going to happen with those dear fish? They're going to get eaten, of course. But what happens to the fish that are closest to his feet? Isn't it not true that, actually I think I have a picture, I'm going to put it up. Is it not true that those that are closest to his feet, right there, see those fish there? Is it not true that they're going to get the most compassion from the fishermen? So for example, suppose that the fish are there and you're a fisherman, and then you see all these big fish in the net, and then there's these little fish jumping at your feet. You know, they look so innocent, so helpless. They can't do it. They know they're going to get eaten, and you just kind of look, oh, my dear fish. So you just pick them up and you just throw them back into the ocean. In other words, those fish which are closest to the feet of God, to the feet of Ishvara, are the ones who surrender, sharanagati, praptihi, are the ones who get saved from this Maya that we are trying to break free of. How can one cross over the great ocean of Maya? A fisherman stands by the lake and casts her huge net. Fisherman is what? Ishvara. What's Maya? The net. I should have said, what's the net? Okay. Most of the fish get lured by Maya, by Maya's attractions, fascinations, and get caught in this net. It is only the ones who take refuge at the feet of the Lord that get saved. Similarly, the one who surrenders, sharanagati, and takes refuge at the feet of Ishvara, indeed gets liberated. And Maya, we can also say is like an ice rink. Anyone been skating? Yeah? First time you come on that ice, you know, everything's so slippery, right? It's like there's no solid ground to hold on to. And it's very fun, isn't it? When you kind of get used to the balance and you can, you know, hold yourself. And then the traffic, right? Because if you come early, then you're lucky, but more people start coming. So then eventually we fall every once in a while. Now, when you fall, especially as a first timer, then you realize that your knees don't work because they also slip. You want to hold on to your hands, they also slip on the side. I use my elbows, they also slip on the side. Everything is slippery. There's just no solid ground to hold on to. So Maya is like this ice rink, just a metaphor. It's very slippery. Every time we try to hold on to something, it doesn't last that long. And it's very frustrating. So we ask help. Hey, can you help me, please? And someone does help you. But they also are on the ice rink, so they will also slip sooner or later. So Maya, in a way, creates this slippery ice everywhere. And this, because of that, we experience, because we get caught up in that ice ring. It's so fun and it's so juicy, called samsara. What is it that one would have to do to gain a motionless ground? So I want motionless ground. I want something that be okay without moving, something that's secure. So the problem also, before we move on to the solution, is that most people will hold on to another form of apara prakriti. That means they will slip and they will hold on to something that is, again, slippery, just in a different form. And it seems like I've held onto something that is concrete this time. This time, I've got it. This time, it's not going to go. But this time, also, in course of time, I realize it slips. And therefore, constant disappointment. And the second problem is a lot of us cannot tell what's the difference between apara and para prakriti. Therefore, owing to lack of discrimination or lack of education as to what is the truly solid, truly permanent, then we have no choice but to hold on to another version of apara prakriti. So therefore, Krishna reminds us, first instruction, when tragedy strikes, better hold on to me. What is me referring to? Higher or lower nature? Higher nature, para prakriti. Because apara prakriti, as we've already established, is like slippery ice. He says, Esha Maya. I'm just changing the word order. This apara prakriti, which is saguna. Saguna means with the gunas, raja, tama, and sattva. It is savikara with modifications. It undergoes decomposition. Why do I say decomposition? Because anything that modifies transforms. Therefore, it is as good as saying it decomposes into a different form. And it is savikalpa. Savikalpa means it is changing. It differs. It varies in its qualities, in its attributes. And this apara prakriti, which is saguna, savikara, savikalpa, is called Maya. So now we're starting to get closer to what does the word Maya actually mean. And what is the glory of this Maya? It has the capacity to tempt the mind away from para prakriti to apara prakriti. That's the glory of Maya. It is so powerful that it can actually cause apparently cause Brahman to not know thyself, to not know itself. And this is also going to bring in an objection from a samsari. When I say samsari, I'm not putting anyone down. I'm just referring to someone who has not ascertained the nature of paraprakriti, only knows about aparaprakriti. And the objection will be like this. It's always the same story. Why should I know religion? Why should I be interested in this work? What's the point of God? What's the point of Ishvara? Everything's okay in my life. I've got work, I've got kids, I'm happy, everything's fine. So what's the point? How will Ishvara help me? How will this religion help me? So if someone that's close to you is speaking like this, don't be surprised. The reason is this kind of arrogance. Now when I say arrogance, what I mean is superiority. Arrogance means my opinion is superior to that which I'm comparing against. This kind of arrogance comes from the fact that everything is okay right now. Is that not true? When everything's okay, what's the point of religion? What's the point of God? It is only when things go wrong, only then do we all magically turn our heads up and pray to some invisible being, which we never accounted before in our entire lives. So therefore, the attitude of this discarding of religion and Ishvara, Bhagavan, comes from or is owned to Maya, or we also said the word Mohini, that is, the one who deludes. Mohini, if you translate, it's actually fascinating woman. Because she's so fascinating, she deludes us, and we want to participate with her. When I say her, I'm talking about the world. And now we can ask the question, what does it mean to say Maya deludes? It generates appearance other than what it actually is in our perception, I mean. For example, we all go on a desert right now, and in the far distance we see a beautiful oasis, a heavenly-like oasis with palm trees, and it looks extremely real. Now we all perceive that oasis, 100% it's there. However, is that oasis being honest? Well, it is being honest because it's not trying to hurt us. So why do we see this mirage on the desert even though it is actually not, it is something other than what it is? Because all I'm seeing is just a reflection of the sky on the sand, and maybe if you're thirsty, then your mind's going to superimpose a few projections onto the oasis and add extra reality to it. But why is it that I see that? That is because of Maya. It causes me to believe that what I see is true. So therefore, how am I deluded? By giving reality to the appearance which is generated and participating thus into it. For example, there's a nice story of a son and a father on that desert, and both of them see the oasis. The father, the wise person of course, does not run to the oasis. They're both thirsty. But what does the son do? Goes straight to the oasis. So what's the moral of this little story? The moral is, if I give reality and I don't know what is it that I'm seeing, it is going to cause or induce a doer in me to participate into it. But what does the father do? He also sees this Maya-generated world. However, owing to his knowledge or her knowledge, he does not move towards the oasis. Why? Because he knows, even though it appears real, it is actually not real. So therefore, what does Vedanta do? It gives us knowledge so we don't get fooled by these generated experiences and fall into their appearances. Another example is, suppose I see a beautiful rainbow, because what do we say about Maya? Mohini. Mohini means fascinating, the one who deludes. Now, we all take pictures of a rainbow, right? Very beautiful. But what happens when you go towards the rainbow or inside the rainbow? Is the rainbow there? No. So as soon as my point of view changes, that which I just a second ago was going click, 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 as soon as I change my point of view, instantly what I initially saw no longer is true. So therefore, that rainbow was a generated an appearance owing to my relative position to it. It gave me an impression of trueness. It gave me an impression of reality. But if I investigate into it, I don't even see the light. As soon as I come out of the light of the rainbow, suddenly this beautiful 7 spectrum of color comes out. So this is how Maya works. We give reality to everything, but as soon as you look at it from another way, from another angle, you see the truth of it, and that is not actually what I thought it was. In the same way, how does it delude? It deludes by taking the mind away from Paraprakriti onto Aparaprakriti.
Is that actually helpful to consider it as being dishonest of Ishvara to do that, rather than taking responsibility for your intellect and your emotional and your thought self from actually misinterpreting it?
Yeah, that's why I said the word as though dishonest. It is not being true with what it's showing us, but that is owned to our own avidya, our own ignorance. Another way to just say is, see, don't take the words literally, because then you'll say, then, Maya is trying to fool us. It's evil. It's not evil. Another way to just say is false advertisement. So that's what Maya is. It's just false. It's just falsely. See, we get angry marketers for false advertising for us, but who is the ultimate marketer of the entire universe? Maya's Mohini. So she's advertising us, and we're constantly falling for her tactics, and we're giving reality to her.
But is there intent behind it, though?
No, there's no intent. Yeah, it just does it innocently, just like the innocent project, the mirage in the desert, innocently demonstrates itself.
It just is.
Yeah, as it being something that I give attention to. Or for example, the snake. It's the same thing with the snake rope example. The rope is not trying to superimpose the snake. The snake is nothing to do with the rope. It's a totally different order of reality. But only to the twilight, I couldn't see exactly what it is. So then the traveler comes over to the rope, and he's tired, he's thirsty, he's not thinking straight. And due to those circumstances, it created something that looks similar of the object which is being superimposed on. Therefore, I see that which is not, which means Maya. And that's what Maya does to us. So the snake is not trying to be dishonest. In that way, we can't say this word dishonest that you may have thought, but it's not the case. Okay, therefore, Duratyaya, meaning the Maya is so powerful in deluding that we never can transcend it by our own intellects. So this means you can be the smartest person in the world, know every single thing about science, about the universe. You can memorize all of the scriptures by heart. Still, it is so powerful in deluding such a person that no amount of intellectual rationalization or calculation or mathematics is going to break the code. Now, why? Obviously, because Maya is too subtle for the intellect. See, we cannot even pick up our own causes that cause us to have addictions or habits. When we do things the way we do and the way that we do them, it's like, where is this coming from? We can't even detect our own unconscious patterns, let alone the cause of those unconscious patterns. That's how subtle Maya is. It's totally beyond any kind of intellect or mind comprehension. This is why we say Maya cannot be intellectually rationalized or known. And for this reason, we are all under the influence or the spell of Maya, even right now. For example, suppose you have a group of 20 people, and you just do a little experiment. You give them a very small dose of a particular drug. And it's not too big. It's not a big dose, but just a small dose. 20 people. Now, within 2 hours, when the drug starts to hit, when they get intoxicated by that drug, it's so normal, because it gradually just sets on. The onset's so gradual that they cannot tell that their thinking and their emotions are different than before the experiment started. So in the group of 20 people, they're all normal to each other. But then what happens when you have an observer who is not intoxicated by that drug? He or she clearly picks up there's something off about their behavior. They're acting strange. They're acting differently. But in the group of those 20 people, you cannot pick that up. It is normal. So that is just an experiment on a 20 people basis. Now imagine Maya being the drug of the entire universe. So that's what I mean. We're all influenced under the spell of this Maya drug, so much so that we say, everything's normal. I'm acting normal, the world's normal, everything's fine. Just like those 20 people will say, oh, our behavior to sing out loud and to see fairies everywhere, it's normal. This is our reality. Now imagine you keep supplying that extra dose to those 20 people for 50 years. Their reality would literally be that, and they were unable to distinguish it from the reality that we're living in. Now, take it on the macrocosmic scale. Every single one of us are under the spell of this Maya. Take another example. The youth from 20 years ago. Imagine them walking into a train and seeing the youth of today. Everyone's on the phone, right? What would the youth 20 years ago say to today's youth? Are you guys okay?
Hello.
Right? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Is your neck okay? Are you practicing or something? They couldn't understand it. But today's youth don't think like that. It's normal. So in the same way, it is normal for us to live according to the lives that we are living, and we have no reference point to compare it to something else. Why? Because everything is Maya. So all there is Maya. Another example, how about in my age, yo-yos or marbles in school? It was such a cool game, right? You could just play marbles all day. Now imagine that today's youth, it's like, what are you doing with those yo-yos, or the marbles? Get that in. Here's a game. Here's solitaire or something. But to those youth in 20 years ago, that was completely normal. So then we constantly change from one to the next, to the next, to the next. But every single time we change, it is normal. All right, so that's Maya. So the summary is this Duratyaya word means Maya is very hard to conquer, or it cannot be easily conquered. Now question, why not? The reason is Gunamayi, meaning Maya is made up of 3 guna. And those 3 guna trap, like jaws. Now, what are those jaws? Suppose there's 3 teeth. One teeth is called Sattvaha, another tooth is called Rajaha, another tooth is called Tamaha. For example, Tamaha, 99.9%, okay, I'm not going to say 0.9, I'll just say 99, I'll be kind. 99% of drugs, recreational drugs, or even like morphine or aphrodisiacs or anything that is meant to make the person relaxed or cause them to experience a sensual inflation of sensuality is Tama Guna. It's very enjoyable. That's why people love drugs. In other words, it catches them, it grabs them. Another example is Raja Guna. Achievement. We all love to achieve. And fun. Let's go out. Let's go dancing. Let's go do something. Let's have a nice, let's just, enjoy ourselves. Entertainment. What's the biggest industry today? Entertainment. You can't escape it. It's just everywhere. It's like dominating the world right now. But I'm not calling it bad or good. I'm just letting you know how these 3 gunas trap and cause us to want to have another hit tomorrow. We had fun today, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And then we can change the version of the fun that we can have. And this goes on endlessly. Or Sattvaha, Sattva Guna. Intellectuals. I love to read. I love knowledge. I love to remember. I love to know stuff. I want to know everything. I want a new skill. I can't help it. Skill after skill. I want to improve the skills that I already have. That's addiction of Sattva Guna. I feel awesome. That's Sattva. It's called stuck in Sattva. I used to actually meditate for 16 hours a day, constantly stuck in the Sattva. You feel so good, you just don't want to do anything. There's no better feeling. Even drugs don't even come close to the kind of states that you can gain through constant precise meditation with these pranayamas and moving the energy from Muladhara to Sahasrara all day long. One time I was going to Byron Bay and the plane didn't work, so they had to postpone it an hour, and I just came out. And I was like, I've got nothing to do. So I just sat down, started meditating. Within 10 minutes, I think it was like Savikalpa Samadhi, literally intoxicated by bliss. A few moments later, because you just lose track of time, they say the plane is fixed, now let's go back in. I went out of the x-ray. I couldn't walk. I was literally drunk on this intoxication. I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble because I have to get on the plane, and I just couldn't walk. You're just so blissed out. And so you really can get these states. But you know what the problem with that is? Once it ends, you want another hit. That's called stuck in sattva. And once it's over, it's over. So therefore, another trap of Maya. Okay, so the entire universe, therefore, is made up of these three guna. Therefore, everything we interact with, everything we speak, everything we see, everything we hear, smell, touch, and so on, is nothing but a combination of these three guna. And what happens? We get addicted to nothing but the three gunaha. The combinations of them. They're like tea flavors. There's a tea flavor for everyone. Like if you don't like vanilla, then here's some peppermint. If you like some masala, then you can have, some other flavor like strawberry or something. So there's always something for everyone, and we all get addicted on this. Also, we will talk about gunas in detail in chapter 14. We're on chapter 7 now, because this is not exactly the right context for that. Okay, now where is this gunamayi or this apara prakriti located? Daivi belongs to me. The para prakriti, which the apara depends on. In other words, these three guna, Maya, apara prakriti, belongs where? Where is it located? In para prakriti, in me, the higher nature of Ishvara. Then what is the solution to not being thrown around like laundry inside this Maya washing machine? And Krishna is going to say, the only solution is mameva ye prapadyante. Second line. The people who surrender to me, that is para, prakriti, me, take shelter in me humbly, without arrogance. Those ones get saved. Just like that fisherman, the ones closest to the Ishvara, who beg Ishvara's help, please help me, are the ones who get saved. We said without arrogance. So what does without arrogance means? I do not say, I do not require God. I don't require Bhagavan in my life. I don't require religion in my life. You know why? Because everything's fine in my life. Everything's smooth. For that reason, I don't require. That means I don't say that. If I do, that becomes arrogance. What is arrogance? Being superior to that which is trying to help me. And what do these people understand? These fish by the feet of the fisherman, what do they understand? That I cannot cross samsara independently. No way. I need what's called Ishvara Kripaha. Kripaha means I need the grace of Ishvara. I need something that is higher than this little intellect to figure it out. I need help of that higher. I don't know what that higher is right now, but I need help. Therefore, that is Ishvara's grace, asking for it. Why? Because only Ishvara is going to provide the acharyaha. The person trying to seek by themselves is not going to find the acharyaha because they are under the influence of Maya. They're drunk by this intoxication of Maya. Therefore, whatever acharyaha I look for only represents an aspect, an unresolved aspect within me. Only one aspect, but not all the aspects. So therefore, I find an acharyaha who's going to help me reduce my emotional disturbances. And they do help. And then I find an acharyaha who's going to help me to be a better communicator. And that also works. But only Ishvara is going to take one by how? Through Ishvara's grace to an acharyaha who's going to negate every single one of those problems. And what does the acharyaha do? Provide the shastra to the student. In other words, never depend on the acharyaha, always depend on the shastra. Why? Because the shastra alone is where the answers are. It is what is going to solve all of the remaining leftover doubts. It is what's going to remain next to your bedside table, but the acharyaha is not going to be around. Therefore, always depend on the Shastra, not the Acharya. We're not interested in having attachments between Shishya, Guru. It's got nothing to do with it. It's completely impersonal. So the Shastra is your personal friend. And the second line conclusion, we can now read the entire second line. Those who surrender to me, who practice bhakti, taranti etam mayam. Those ones, they alone will cross over this maya. Just like those who surrender to the fisherman. I am helpless. Help me. I can't get out of the net myself. And therefore the fisherman feels so much compassion, Ishvara feels so much compassion for the bhakta, for the devotee, that Ishvara nicely brings the acharya and the proper shastram, the pramana, to the bhakta, to the student, and therefore the student goes on and succeeds, gets thrown back into the oneness. Not that they were ever apart from it, but it feels like that. And remember, what do we say about what bhakti means? Having faith onto, acknowledging, having attachment to, having fondness for. In other words, those fish are acknowledging the fisherman. First, I have to say, fisherman, I acknowledge you. You are here. See, you can even be by the fisherman's feet and you can still say, I'm going to look back into my brothers and try to help them. No, because, everyone's going to be at the fisherman's feet sooner or later. They are fond of the fisherman. They are attached to the fisherman. And because they're so attached, the fisherman's like, okay. You got my attention. Here, I'm going to help you. Therefore, we need to get Ishwara's attention. How? That's where prayer comes in. That's where humility comes in. As long as I remain arrogant, I'm not going to get Ishwara's attention. Also, Krishna, as we said, calls this praptihi. Praptihi means I discover Ishwara. In other words, I discover that the fisherman is right here. Right? Now I have to first discover that. Or sharanagati, surrender. So now we'll bring up another question. What exactly is bhakti? Because there's more to bhakti than I just explained. Willingness to let go of control to a higher reality. I may not know what that higher reality is right now, but I'm willing nevertheless to let go control of my control to that higher reality. Why? Because I know that it can help me transform my life. So that means I need to have first faith. It can help me indeed. So I am letting go of control. And this bhakta, this devotee, goes through 3 stages of bhakti, that is to surrender as a devotee. The first stage is called Munda Bhakti, M-A-N-D-A. It means I use Ishvara for worldly ends. God is my tool to get stuff. In other words, Munda Bhakti is only interested in Kama, Artha, and even Dharma. Because some people want to be wise for the sake of gaining an upper hand over the society. In other words, all my interest is in gaining for myself. In other words, this kind of bhakta is the lower form. This is a lower form of bhakti. Why? Because God is nothing but a utility, someone to instigate when I need help for my own raga dvesha, for my own worldly likes and dislikes. So therefore, God is the means, worldly things are the end. The second type is Madhyama Bhakti. This is the stage where the Bhakti gradually matures from the first one, and the Lord, or Bhagavan, is no longer the means, but becomes the end. This is a stage where everything I use, everyone that I communicate with, everything that I use here on earth is only a means to the ultimate end, which is Bhagavan, which is Ishvara. So you can see how it's changed. Before it was worldly ends, now it's God is the end, the ultimate end. And why does this stage happen? Why does it mature? Because over time, everyone goes through this stage. The person discovers the limitations of things on earth, of enjoyments. There's a limit to how much I can enjoy myself. There's a limit to how much I can eat. There's a limit to how much I can stay awake. There's a limit to everything. So therefore, the person goes through a stage of depending on the world, moving to depending entirely on Ishvara. In the beginning stage, we all depend on the world. It's okay, I've got my family, I've got my business, I've got my job, it's fine. But over time, when I discover and I get disappointed, time after time after time, the person starts to think, could there be more to this? I'm not happy with what I have. Therefore, they start to depend on something higher. The third type is Otama Bhakti, the highest, also means excellent. Otama Bhakti, the final level of Bhakti. This is the stage where we all want to get to, or we already are at this stage. This is a stage where Bhagavan is neither the means nor the end. In other words, I am no longer categorizing Ishvara as either the means nor the end, because it is understood that all that is here is one without a second. If I say that Bhagavan is the end, then is that not presupposing there is a means? That means Dvaitam. That means there's something left. That means I'm excluding that, but I'm going for something else. So therefore here, this concept of means and ends also gets negated. Why? Because it's the highest level of bhakti. Now when I say Bhagavan, the word Bhagavan means one who is full of 6 opulences. That means they're completely full. Remember, Bhagavan is synonymous with the word Ishvara. So what are those 6 opulences that Bhagavan is full of? The first one is beauty. That means Bhagavan is the total beauty of everything. See, we look at a rainbow, we go, oh, beautiful. But that's just one single expression of the total beauty. So Bhagavan is all of the beauty in the entire world. The second is fullness of fame. We all get our little fames. You can be a dad or a mom, and you're famous with your son. You're famous with your daughter. Or if you're a musician, you're famous with your rock and roll niche group, but as soon as you come out of that niche group and you go into classical music, you're a nobody. So therefore, we all get fame here and there, but who is Bhagavan? That one who is the full famous, is the ultimate fame. That means there is no greater fame than him. That means all of our little fames, they all go back to the ultimate fame, the biggest fame. That's why we all seek God. When you're in trouble, you don't seek Pinocchio or some crazy person. You seek the highest automatically. The third is full knowledge. We all have knowledge here and there. Someone knows how to knit really well. Someone knows how to do carpentry, plumbing really well, how to fix cars, how to program. But what is Ishvara? Program, cars, engineering, fixing things, everything total. All of the knowledge in total. The fourth is full in renunciation. What does this mean? We all try to renounce from something. Why? Because it's not, we want to free ourselves of that. But if I'm free from, let's say, soccer, I am not free from badminton. Someone else is free from badminton, but they're not free from food addiction. Someone else is free from food, they've renounced themselves from food, that is, but they're not free from emotional addiction. They'd like to experience emotions. Someone else is free, even a yogi, may be free from the world, but they're not free from the mind. Therefore, who is Bhagavan, or what is Bhagavan? That's a better question. That one who is the ultimate renunciate, completely free of everything. The fifth quality is full strength. We all have strength here and there. Someone has physical strength, someone has emotional strength, someone has intellectual strength. And you can even subdivide those strengths into categories. Someone may be intellectually smart at logical analysis. Someone else may be good at puzzle solving. Someone else may be good at theater, creating lines on the spot, comedy. And what is Bhagavan? That one who is the total strength of everyone. And the last one is full wealth. We all want wealth here and there, and we do have wealth. Wealth doesn't just mean money. It can also mean wealth as in intellectual wealth, emotional wealth, compassionate wealth, understanding wealth, or even monetary wealth. And who is Ishvara? that one who is the ultimate, the highest wealth of all. And what are we all doing? We are using fame, knowledge, wealth, we're using renunciation, we're borrowing all these 6 opulences from whom? Ishvara alone. And we are what? Taking then glory. So therefore, you can take glory, but never forget that it all belongs to that one from whom it originates off. So, in Otama Bhakti, we're still in number 3. This is a stage whereby one understands that the real Ishvara who is sought is not different from myself. That means the seeker and the sought are non-differentiated. They're one and the same. And therefore, Uttama then leads to moksha. Therefore, what's the point of sharing these 3 bhaktis? To go to moksha level, one has to progress all the way from Manda to Madhyama to Uttama, and then that leads to moksha. So, summary, we start at Manda, all of us, at some point, previous lives also included. And then we graduate to Madhyama, very high stage. That means the only end is God alone. And then it all culminates at Uttama Bhakti. So what's the summary of the verse? The summary is, people do not turn to Bhakti because they do not have sufficient punya karma. That's the reason why some are not interested in Ishvara. No sufficient punyam to say, I want to go to temple, I want to take an interest in the Shastra, or I want to listen at least for one YouTube video about Advaita Vedanta. Not even enough punyam to do that. And for that reason, they're not interested, nor do they believe in God. So therefore, if you ever hear someone who is just not interested in this work that is meant to free oneself, don't be surprised. It's neither good nor bad. It just means not enough punyam has been generated on the part of that individual for them to spontaneously start asking questions if there's something higher than what I happen to be doing. Okay? See, all of us go through this stage. We're not interested, and suddenly there's this transition, and you suddenly start taking an interest, and you somehow get taken by this flow automatically. And it happens somehow. We don't know how, but it does happen nevertheless. For every single individual in the world. If not this lifetime, then the next one, and so on. And the rest of us who do have suffice punya karma, what happens is we are helplessly, as I said, feel attracted, or you can even use the word compelled to investigate more than just the apara prakriti that I happen to see. I want to see who is God, what is this all about? So therefore, what does the Shastra do to solve this problem? So therefore, Shastra always presents Ishvara in different forms. Why? Because that's the best that we can relate to right now on the beginning stage. So therefore, Shastra will never go to the highest, that is the formless Ishvara, the invisible, to Brahman. It will always start as something that we can relate to, Rama, Krishna, and so on. For the sake, because that's how we relate to other beings, therefore relate to form. And what happens is, if you compare it to, like, say, mathematics. You know, in mathematics, you say find x, right? The maths formula. Now, you don't know what x is. It just says find x. Now, we don't know anything what the answer is about this x. All we have instruction is to find x. So then we apply certain formulas. We go through, equations. We make errors. We ask the teacher. We're frustrated. Find x, find x, find x. That's all we know. And eventually, x starts to become a little more clear. Maybe this is right. No, it's not that. And then you keep trying, and eventually you find x, and then you're super happy. Okay, let's read number 14. What's the difference between the black one and the blue one? Paramarthananda on the top, this one Dayananda, the black one. I like the blue one in some cases. We'll read the blue. This divine Maya of mine, which consists of 3 gunaha, is indeed difficult to cross over. We just established that. Why? Only those people who surrender to me, that is para prakriti, cross over this maya, like those fish who surrender to the fisherman. Now, number 15. Okay, we do it together. Namam dushkritino mudhaha prapadyante naradhamaha mayaya pahartatnyanaha asuram bhavam ashritaha. 715 will answer why do majority do not make Bhagavan as priority in life. The answer is because owing to lack of punyam. Even to come to bhakti, for example, to be interested, you need past life punyam. To be born and suddenly, have this interest when someone shows you the Gita or the Shastra, that interest is owned to past punyam. So therefore, past punyam is the cause. Also in the book called Saundarya Lahiri, you know this one? Saundarya Lahiri by Shankaracharya. He makes a very nice statement and says, if punyam is not present, then there is generally two conditions that are going to happen. The first is the person is not going to be born in a culture that talks about moksha. And the second, they're going to be born in a materialistic culture that only talks about artha and kama. Therefore, no punyam from the past life. What happens? I don't get exposed to someone who mentions the word liberation or salvation or whatever the word happens to be in that nation or that language. And I get born with parents whose main priority is either survival or making it big, being successful, entertainment. That's all I know. I therefore live that kind of life. One should have sufficient punyam to be born as number one, human being. However, that is still not sufficient because you can be born a human being and spend all your time dwelling in artha and kama. So therefore, you need even more punyam to be interested in all of the four purusharthas, all of the four lives. That means artha, kama, dharma, and moksha are all balanced together. So I need to be born in a place which talks about them in the first place, for me as a young, innocent kid who doesn't know it very much, to take an interest and flow with that by myself. If I don't, then I miss out. And if you think about it, most cultures talk about what? Artha and kama. Everywhere now. Success and entertainment. Owing to that, dharma and moksha never get investigated because of the culture alone. So culture does matter. Steve Jobs, I admire him because he's extremely good, competent of the CEO of the Apple, former CEO. Put a lot of importance on culture of the company. That's why they're so successful today. Culture means what is it that we stand for? What is it that we're going to adhere? What are our standards? And on top of those standards, we shall walk. And he put very high standards, and that's why Apple is a very valuable company today. The culture of Apple generated the experience for the consumer to be consistent with that culture. So if I set a high culture, if I'm born in a high culture, my experience, my way of life will coincide or will be parallel with that. Another example is if you go to Google Trends, whatever is hot, whatever is the buzzing topic right now, you can look at this in a way of whatever the media talks about that's happening right now, what happens in Google Trends? That topic goes number one. So what does this mean? Whatever is going on in the culture, what do people do? Search for it. Whatever culture talks about, I end up searching. If the culture talks about artha and kama, I end up searching for those topics pertaining to artha and kama. Now, when do you ever have the media talking about dharma and moksha? Therefore, you're never going to have Google Trends as liberation or salvation or something like that. So why am I saying this? To demonstrate how whatever is going on right now is exactly what people innocently feel compelled to investigate for themselves. So again, we only have punyam to be born as a human being, but not enough to investigate the Shastra and Bhagavan, to appreciate Bhagavan. And what is the reason for this lack of interest, Mayaya apahrta jnanaha. The reason is they are, who's the they? Those who don't have sufficient punyam to be interested in Bhagavan or the Shastra, but do have sufficient to be a human being. Those ones are deluded by Maya, which keeps them busy in the pursuit of Artha and Kama constantly. And this is easily proven today by the sheer amount of entertainment in the world. Have you ever been on a cruise ship? Yeah, right. Now, if you walk from the front all the way to the back, no matter what level you walk, what are you going to see? Either something that has to do with entertainment or money, right? Something that you invest your money. Are you going to see a church or a temple in a cruise ship? They have a prayer room, right? A prayer room. A chapel. But even if they do, how many people are inside it compared to gambling, and pool and all of these other things? So, in other words, if you just, all you need to do is, if you want to look at the world as it is right now, go in a cruise ship and look at the combination, the ratio of Artha, Kama, and Dharma, stores, and then you just macrocosm that for the Jagat, for the world, and then you go, okay, well, that's the world, that's the state it's in today. So in other words, micro always represents the macro. So this Maya, what else does it do? It prevents one from ever coming near Mahatma. Mahatma you can translate to an Acharya who can help, or lectures like this, or the Gita, or the Vedanta. It just prevents one from ever getting close. I'm not interested. It's so unsexy. It's uncool. It's so old-fashioned. It's out of date. These rishis, they are so old. This is the new world. You need to adjust to the new world. So this is Maya speaking. So don't be surprised. What else does it do? It robs the person of discrimination. Discrimination from what? From para and apara. Therefore, the presence of Maya robs my intellect from asking, is there something more to this? And what's the point of pursuing this in the first place? It is so attractive that I don't even ask, hey, is this going to last? Just one simple question the person doesn't ask. So in other words, it robs the common sense intellect of inquiring, what's actually going to play out when I do get into this, knowing that I have gotten into this before and I know how it has turned out before, so what makes me think it's going to turn out better this time? The person doesn't even ask this basic common sense question. That is because of the discrimination being stripped out. And when does one finally start to apply discrimination in life? When they fall. Only when I fall several times, then I ask, oh, how do I prevent my fall next time because it hurts so much? Like a small child who wants to climb up the ladder or a tree, and then mommy says, no, you're going to fall down. It's happened before. And then the child goes, no. You know how they just go. And then they fall. And then finally, it's so bad that they start discriminating. This tree is not for me. This tree is not so much for my good health. So therefore, they move on. And Shastra calls this mudhaha. These people that I just talked about are utterly deluded, which creates this kind of behavior. Now the question, what is delusion? What does delusion mean? It means I take the impermanent to be the permanent. If I do that, I am officially deluded. And Shastra calls this Shobhana Atyasaha, superimposing the wrong things onto whatever it is. I superimpose my idea onto something else. In other words, I superimpose wrong notions, incorrect notions onto the object which I happen to be perceiving. Shobhana Atyasaha. And for this reason of being deluded constantly is the very reason why Bhagavan has so kindly given us the Shastra. Without the Shastra, it is impossible to cross over this Maya. because it's only through Shastra that we're able to get this knowledge. Imagine that without Shastra. We will be taking constantly this world and relying on scientific data to try to make sense of it all. No way. So because Bhagavan knew that there is no way a jiva can get out of this Maya, it has provided and offered us eternally this Shastra. That's why it's an eternal lineage. It's always present. And also the Acharya who's going to make sense of that Shastra. Now when I say Bhagavan provided, don't think now some person providing like that. It's present. It's part of, just like a tree's present, the sun's present, the Shastra's present. And what does the Shastra do? It gives us do's and don'ts. It's the only way to know how to live. What does the Shastra do? By living those do's and don'ts, it leads to our own happiness, which is exactly what we're all looking for. Without the Shastra, permanent happiness is simply impossible. You will have a lot of temporary happiness, like the cruise ship example, a lot of things, but permanent, impossible. So therefore, that's why another reason to be grateful that this very principle that we're trying to get out of, called Maya, is the very principle that has provided us the Shastra to see through it. So Maya is not bad nor good. It is just a value-neutral ground which we can use for our own benefit to break through this Maya. Okay, and now also, despite this Shastra and Guru being very nicely provided for us, due to the person's arrogance, which we spoke of, superiority, in the Mundaka Upanishad, there's a nice statement which says, they do not know anything. They is the samsari. But they think they know everything. This is like a teenager, a 13-year-old. I know everything. But then when they're 14, they realize how little they knew at 13. But now at the 14, I know everything. Now, and then 18, they know everything and they realize how little they knew at 14. So this is a constant journey of even an adult. I think I know everything, but I actually don't know anything. And for this reason, I am not interested in the Shastra nor Bhagavan pursual, for this very reason. And what's even more unfortunate is the last statement on the second line, Asuram bhavam ashritaha. In other words, they, that is those people, get themselves into trouble, but also get everyone else into trouble. Not only do I get myself into trouble, owing to my lack of interest in the Shastra, in the do's and don'ts, how to live life of peace, of coherence, of harmony with everyone else, but also whoever is associated with me also gets into trouble. For example, if I have a kid who doesn't have enough sufficient punya karma and they get themselves into trouble, they steal or they hit someone, then me as a parent gets called and I also get into trouble now for bringing up a very naughty kid. Or that's just one example. There's many examples like, you know how the young couple, they fall in love and then let's say the guy's all crazy, he's driving a car and then the woman's telling him to slow down, but he's full of testosterone, so he just keeps driving and then the police stop him. And then not only is he in trouble, but now also she's in trouble. And that's just a good example. What if that car crashes? Yeah. Not only does he get into trouble, but also her entire life now gets damaged. Now she cannot pursue the Shastra, cannot pursue her life forward. What does this mean? It means when your life is spent in procuring artha, that means collecting, accruing, kama and artha, then one soon discovers that they're not satisfied. Why? Because they discover that no amount of procuring of artha and kama can satisfy my endless yearning for more, craving of more desire. That means whatever I satisfy, there's another version of it that sounds even better. And when I satisfy that also, something else comes up and it's even a better idea. So in other words, I quickly discover that I cannot fulfill it. Therefore, all of my ambition goes into the fulfillment of desire. And what happens very soon, tying this with this verse, is I discover that I cannot satisfy my desire through legitimate earning. Because to legitimately earn, I only get so much. of monetary funds. But I discovered no matter how much I earn, my desire always matches that. And one moment I come to the maximum of my salary, for example, but my desire is like over there. So now I start to look, how is it that I'm going to go up there? So what I do, I start cutting corners. In other words, I start finding illegitimate ways to satisfy this craving. So now I have to start cheating and lying in order to satisfy the desire that is non-stop. So what does this mean? The person starts to compromise dharma. And at the beginning, it hurts. Why? Because the person still has fresh conscience, fresh morals. But very soon, because the desire is so strong, it supersedes the conscience, and therefore that initial pain, that prick, is suddenly superimposed and it's no longer felt, and then the person starts to justify why adharmic behavior is a good idea and why it's actually not hurting anyone, and all I'm doing is I'm just enjoying myself. What's the big deal? So then all of the intellect starts to go along with this adharma. Very common. This is the most common thing that you see. 2008 crash in America. There was the real estate, Gareth, you would know. Something happened with the housing market, right? They found a loophole and they took advantage of this loophole for years and years and years. When that loophole was finally discovered, then everything crashed down, and that's why we had this big crash. Now, why did they take advantage of that loophole? You think they felt good when they first found it? Nobody felt good. But little by little, I saw everyone else doing it, so it became reasonable. Same thing with if I go to like for example, the Indian taxi drivers. A foreigner comes out of, for example, Chennai, and then, everyone's going 5 times the price. You think the taxi driver felt comfortable asking 5 times the price when they first asked? No. It was very uncomfortable. But little by little, they started to compromise dharma, and it became normal to ask for 5 times the price for a white person. So this happens all the time, I tell you. Another example, before I used to ask for favors in a legitimate way. After discovering that I cannot get favors in such a easy manner anymore, because I'm hassled, what do? I learn persuasion tactics, manipulation and blackmail. Very common. Happens also unfortunately, in relationships. So before I could ask you and you would respond. But now I see you're not quite responsive to me. So then what do? I unconsciously start to compromise dharma, and I start to blackmail or manipulate the person into complying for my own raga dvesha. Another example. Happens in sales also. Before, honest benefits. Here's what you're going to get. Later, this happens in TV media all the time, your life's going to change. You're going to be the happiest person in the world. Now, the marketer clearly knows that's not the case, but they still do it. Why? For the artha, the money. So in other words, they compromise dharma to stay in the job. Those who do wrong actions, compromising dharma for artha and kama, are deluded, who are the lowest among men. That means they're on the lowest of human being that you can exercise. Those do not seek me, Ishvara. Robbed of their discrimination by Maya, that means the intellect is robbed, they have resorted to the condition of those who revel in sense pursuits, i.e. artha and kama. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janak sukriti norjuna arto jijna surartharti jnani cha bharatarshabha. So when the person has sufficient punya, then Ishvara becomes the number one priority at varying degrees. Because you can say, what do you mean number one priority? That priority has different degrees of priority, and those degrees will depend on what is my intention or what is my motive or purpose in my life. So that's going to depend what kind of bhakta I am. We have now 4 types of bhaktas, 4 types of devotees. And the first type being artaha. It's a long A at the beginning, artaha. And we all generally start with this, and because it is most prevalent, unfortunately, bhakti is seen only for weak people. And you'll see now why. Because artaha is only done when there is a turmoil or trouble in life. So when crisis come, magically devotion starts. Before crisis, God is not needed. Crisis, suddenly God becomes important. And the reason it's invoked, why Ishvara is invoked in this kind of version, artaha, is because I realize I'm not competent enough to solve the problem on my own. And therefore, I start to ask for help of Ishvara. Now remember, these 4 types, Ishvara is being acknowledged at every single type here. So this means that the punyam is sufficient to be a human being and sufficient to be interested in Ishvara. So this is good. This is a good stage. That means to be at this level is already a step forward, because at least I'm acknowledging Ishvara. So when I'm unable to solve the problem on my own, I either go to a temple, a church, a swami, or a friend, and then I seek for their guidance, or I go in a room and I pray. That's the basic idea of this first type. And the example could be, oh Lord, please remove my stomach ache. Please remove my toothache. Please, Lord, get me out of this mess. Oh Lord, please marry off my daughter to a fantastic husband. Right? And this starts in childhood. If you remember, in school, when we studied before the exam, what do we do the next morning or the next day? We magically turned our heads up, and it became a special namaskara prayer day. Right? So the entire term, we're naughty, we're doing what we want, and suddenly, next morning, oh God, let me pass, please let the answers be known to me, let me just be so simple, please. So suddenly it starts like that. Therefore, crisis comes, I start to pray. So here Ishvara has a very special title. In this case, Ishvara is called Crisis Management Ishvara. Right? It's here to manage my crisis. So Bhagavan is used for removal of problems. Panchali is an example, or Draupadi from Mahabharata. For example, when she was in a situation of being derobed by Dushrasan, then only then she prayed to whom? Krishna. Therefore, Krishna came and saved her. The second type is Artharthi. That's one word, Artharthi. One who is desirous of wealth. Artha, means wealth. Artharthi, that means arthi means desirous of. Therefore, one who is desirous of upper hand, desirous of profit, desirous of an advantage for their own ends. That means when I want something, when I'm already started doing something, that is when I ask or invoke the grace, Ishvara Kripaha, of Lord, and I ask, please help me make a profit. Let me benefit, let me get more out of what I already have in my life right now. So these types are not interested in crisis. They've already started their business. They've already in the progress. And in that progress, they discover, I've got a problem here. I need some help. And that's when they ask for more. For example, suppose there's a childbirth. So one of them is to pray and, I need help. Let the child have good punyam, let them have good karma, let them not be a drug dealer, let them not get me into trouble and so on. So that's the idea. Or even while the child is about to come, let the childbirth be good. Let it be, let me do a puja or a prayer to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Another example is, you're a business person. So you put up a big picture of Lakshmi, and then you pray to Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. Saraswati is not going to come near because I don't need knowledge, I need wealth. So or even you don't have to put that, you can put a successful business person because they represent a quality which matters to me. A prayer, oh Lord, please make him or her conform to my likes and dislikes. Him or her can also be a group of people. Let the employer hire me. Let the employer give me a pay raise. So therefore I need something. I need to increase something. I need to turn up the volume on something or get rid of something. That is when I invoke Lord. Therefore, artharthi is either to get stuff or to get rid of stuff. In other words, I'm using this to solve my problems. That's what Lord is for me, a problem solver. Now, category 1 and 2, artha and artharthi, are both Munda Bhakti. Remember Munda Bhakti? So God is the means and the worldly are my ends. And also the other name for this is sakama. What do we say kamaha was last week? Selfish desires. Therefore, Manda and sakamaha Bhakti are equivalent. 1 and 2 are for selfish desires, for getting what matters to me. So this means both are not interested in God. They're interested in worldly ends. That's what matters to them, priority. Now, what is loved more, the means or the ends? Because for them, God is the means and the object of desire is the end. What is usually loved more, the means or the ends? The end. For example, you go to a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? You want to be on TV, and you're probably going to go through painful questions only for the sake of enjoying the ultimate end of getting $1 million. Or a person goes to a gym, sweats like crazy, gets tortured all day, only to get 2 more looks when they go out to the public, right? Mm-hmm. So in other words, they're willing to go through the means, through the pain, in order to enjoy the ends. So in the same way, this means that 1 and 2 categories, God is expendable. If there is a better way to get what I want, then like law of attraction, right? Oh, the secret. Put God away, put the prayers away. I'm just going to leave the law of secrets, and I'm going to find a formula to getting what I want. So at this stage, God, at 1 and 2, is still an expendable asset. I can still dispose of it if it cannot give me something, which something else can give me much more effectively and much more quickly. Now, category 3, jijnasuhu. This person is interested in knowing more about Ishvara or attaining Ishvara. Totally different category. It went from worldly and now it goes into Ishvara. For this bhakta, that means Ishvara is the ultimate end. And everything else for this bhakta is a means for this end being Ishvara. Such a person will say, oh Lord, I want you and nothing else. And I am willing to go through every sacrifice that is asked of me to gain your love, to gain your wisdom, to gain your knowledge. Still Advaitam, I understand, but it's a very high level. And if you spend 5 hours on tennis, you need to cut that down to 2.5 hours to get 2.5 hours extra on the work of Shastra. That means you need to manage your time very effectively. Why do I say manage? Because it is not now about letting go of your stuff. That's not going to happen. We need to be realistic. So we're just simply putting higher priority on the Shastra. Is a youthful person going to give up their desires? If you tell them this, you need to sacrifice. Yeah, no wonder we don't have youngsters in Advaita. That's why we say there's an age limit to this, right? You know, a 20-year-old, they want to they want to experience the world, or even younger. And now you say, sorry, you're going to sacrifice everything, right? There's no way. So that means a person has to mature to a certain level. Actually, 100 years ago, a 12-year-old was more mature than today's 40-year-old. So the times have also changed. Jijnasuhu is called a Madhyama Bhakta. That means I go from world dependence to Ishvara dependence. Therefore, Jijnasuhu stops depending on the world and starts relying on Ishvara, the sustainer, destroyer, and the giver of life of this world. Last type, Jnani, the highest form of Bhakta. Jnani has discovered that I am never away from what I am seeking. The seeker and the sought are one. They are non-different. That means a Jnani has accomplished Ishvara, accomplished the highest. For a jnani, Ishvara is neither the means is sadhanam, nor is it the end, sadhyam. We already discussed why. Because all that is here is one without a second. There is only Ishvara. If all is Ishvara, then where is space for labels? So for a jnani, there is no such thing as free will. There is no such thing as means or end or this and that. They're all concepts. They're all just ideas to help us navigate the world, but they're all of the one same nature, which is the self alone. So therefore, for a jnani, all there is the self. There is no such thing as free will. Let's talk about free will. Do we have it or not? It doesn't matter. All is known to be self. And a jnani is called a siddhaha, which means already accomplished. That means they are abiding in what is already accomplished themselves. Therefore, this is the category of number 3, Otama Bhakti. Remember, Uttama, the highest form of bhakti. Now let's summarize the 4 stages, and I'll give you a little bit more details in case you missed some details. The first one, Artaha, Arta Arti, that means the first 2 categories, they're interested in material ends, material goals only. God is still a disposable asset, but as long as He can keep giving me what I want, I will keep Him by my side. Jijnasuhu, Bhakta, understands that after some time owing to their maturity, I see that worldly things can no longer provide me happiness that I am looking for. That is a natural progression of maturity of the mind, a conclusion. I cannot get worthwhile security in worldly things, nor happiness, nor eternal fulfillment. So therefore, for such a person, owing to their maturity, Ishvara becomes the number 1 goal in life. And some attributes of a jijnasuhu, I'll give you them now because it's going to help you recognize if you have these attributes in yourself. If that is the case, then you're clearly a jijnasuhu. Number 1, they understand that Ishvara alone can provide me security and happiness. They have fully ascertained that. They're clear on that. It's common sense to them. It's no longer big news to them. It's obvious. The second is Ishvara can only be accomplished through knowledge. It cannot be accomplished by a physical event. It is not an event in time. Why? Because the Jijnatsuhu understands, how can I accomplish an Ishvara, an all-pervading God, in time? Does that not imply that it's not here right now? That's a conclusion of a Jijnatsuhu. Therefore, there is no such idea of, oh, okay. Actually, Dayananda makes a very funny statement. He's like, he was doing a 3-year course, and it's like, at 9 o'clock, I think it was 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock on a Sunday. No, it was 3:59 on a Sunday. I was a normal person. I was wondering about my life. And suddenly, 4 o'clock, enlightened, right? So 3:59, okay. Oh, when is this going to come? When is enlightenment going to come? And then 3:59, 59 seconds, and suddenly 4 p.m. Enlightened, right? No, it is you. In other words, liberation means there is nothing to seek, because if there's something to seek, it implies it's not here right now. In other words, liberation just simply means letting go of the idea that there is something wrong with me. That's it. That's our problem in life. There's something wrong with me, so I need to do something. I need to fix myself. I'm messed up. No, you're not. You're perfect as you are. So what is liberation? Dropping the false notion that something is wrong with the world, the Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. That notion goes away. Therefore, the person that you are right now is exactly the same person that was before, except we completely accept ourselves as we are. That is the conclusion of a Jijnatsu, who's not still at the stage of a jnani, but this is what they know. This is called aparoksha jnanam, direct knowledge. So they also discovered that Ishvara is not over there. Ishvara is here and now. Therefore, Ishvara is no longer about I want God, but I need to discover how is it that God is here right now. So the Vedanta says God is here right now. The truth is here now. So what does the Jnana conclude? I need to discover how is that the case, because right now it's not a reality for me. So therefore they go into the pursuit of discovering that for themselves. And also the Jijnatsuhu Bhakta understands that Ishvara Jnanam, that means the knowledge of Ishvara, is only possible through a purified mind. There is no other way. When I say Ishvara Jnanam, I'm also saying Atma Svarupa Jnanam, that means the nature of the self. So therefore the Jiva, who is now a status of a Jijnatsuhu, concludes or continues to be a religious person. However, all religious activities are for the sake of mind purification. So now you're going to ask, what's the difference between a religious person and a spiritual person? Because I said the word religious. Very simple. There's two types of religious people. One is materialistic religious. We already discussed, this is category of artha and artharti. That means category 1 and 2 belong into religiously materialistic person. They still pray, they still acknowledge God, however, it is for my own ends. And the second, spiritually religious person, this is a Jijnatsuhu Bhakta. That means that religion is used exclusively for purification of the mind. Every temple, every incense sticks that I light up, every prayer, every puja, everything, every bhajan, everything I do is for the sake of purifying the mind. Why? To assimilate and capture the essence, the depth of Ishvara Jnanam. In other words, to comprehend the knowledge deeper, I need to purify my mind. Jijnatsuhu initially starts with Karma Yoga. Chapter 3 we discussed. Karma Yoga, wonderful purification method. Why? Because what it does, it purifies the mind. But after Karma Yoga comes Jnana Yoga. How do you know you're ready to go from Karma to Jnana? You will innocently start feeling more compelled into knowledge aspect and less sense into doing and seeing all as grace of Ishvara. It will just be a natural progression. I naturally kind of am interested in the Shastra, and I find more life, more meaning than seeing and giving my efforts to Ishvara alone. Karma Yoga, stage 1. The Jijnatsuhu then switches to Jnana Yoga, automatic. And they attain that through Acharyaha and the Shastra. So therefore, Karma Yogi equals Jijnatsuhu, and Jnana Yogi equals Jijnatsuhu. So this means whoever is pursuing Karma Yoga right now or Jnana Yoga is a Jijnatsuhu. Why? Because both are intended for moksha. Now, Jnani, 4th stage. This is a stage of going from Advaita Bhakti. So the first 3 stages are all Advaita. This is a stage where Advaita converts into Advaita. In other words, such a person understands I am never away from the total. The total and I are one. However, the person does not say that, because to say I am never away from the total implies there's a person who's making that claim who is actually away from the total. So therefore, the person of a jnani nature is not going to verbalize to himself or herself and say, I am the total and the total is one with me. I never modify. I supply and beautify every butterfly. Goodbye. Right? Because you do in nature, you do supply and beautify every butterfly because that's who you are. You're Atman. So therefore, a jnani to say this doesn't make sense, because to say it means there is a separate entity who is apart from that which is beautified and supplied with the butterflies and all the other nice things that go on. In conclusion, since every person goes through these 4 stages, never ever feel discouraged for whatever stage one happens to be. Why? Because every person has to go from the first all the way to the last. And the last word is, the whole point of these 4 stages that I just mentioned is to keep moving forward. Never ever get stuck in any stage. Keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, and this is going to take you to the highest stage, which is Jnani. Oh, Arjuna, 4 types of virtuous people surrender to me. We just discussed Artha, Artharthi, Jijnatsuhu, and Jnani. The distressed, the seeker of wealth, the seeker of knowledge, that's the Jijnatsuhu, and the wise. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.